you another way. But baby, it's been on my mind, and you know my face can't hide it. So take my hand and hear me when I say, don't you know that I'll be there for you, with a love to get you through the night, yeah. And I'll be there for you when everything is out of sight. You got it, baby. One more time, you got to get it right and walk it while it's life for you. And honey, if you die, then I'ma get you by. But don't already die.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 77 of the Adam Makes Beer Industry Pro Podcast. Today, I'm excited to be chatting with Jeff Biegert of New Belgium and Colorado State University. Just a couple of things in Adam Makes Beer news before we get rolling. I had a fantastic time at the Brewers of PA, their Mid-Atlantic Brewers Symposium and Expo over there in Harrisburg this past weekend. A lot of great talks, a lot of good people, super enjoyable. Make sure, if you are a PA brewer, to be checking that out next year. Speaking of conferences, I'm also going to be at the Ohio Craft Brewers Conference in January, the 26th through 28th in Dayton. Register for it. I'll be attending, speaking. Get a beer with me. You have a beer, I'll have a cocktail. We'll make it work. Also, AdamMakesBeer.com is live. Make sure to jump on there for all the wide range of resources that I have available. For any services that I have, you can check it all out there. I would very much appreciate it. Starting a brewery is a big step. Blickman Engineering is here to help. Since 2006, they've equipped hundreds of nano breweries for success. Their new 3.5 barrel Pro Surface electric brewing system cuts maintenance and saves at least 30 minutes per brew day with powerful under kettle heating. From 1 to 15 barrel brew houses to keg washers and grain mills, Blickman has what you need. Ready to go pro? Contact Phil or Tom at ProSeries at blickmanengineering.com. Blickman Engineering is a proud sponsor of this channel and loves to help brewers at every stage of their journey. Jeff Biegert has been in the brewing industry for over 30 years, starting his professional career at Harpoon Brewing and the Tremont Brewery in Boston, Massachusetts. He was head brewer and production manager at Avery Brewing Company in Boulder, Colorado, before moving to New Belgium Brewing Company in 2001. Over the years, he's led numerous projects at New Belgium in the areas of brewing, fermentation, beer finishing, and packaging. His role in R&D has included development of business intelligence and data integration systems, development and production of hard cider, and creation of the incomparable Brew-O-Matic, among many other process improvement and R&D projects. He's been teaching at CSU for 13 years in the Fermentation Science and Technology degree program and manages the 50-liter research brew kitchen and the Ramskeller Brewhouse. In 2022, he received the Best Teacher Award from the CSU Alumni Association. Jeff has been lecturing on fermentation and yeast management in the MBA's Brewing and Malting Science course since 2011 and has given technical talks at the Brewers Association, Craft Brewers Conference, MBAA annual conferences, the American Society of Brewing Chemist Quality Workshop, and the Craft Maltsters Conference. Jeff has a diploma in brewing technology from the Siebel Institute in Chicago, a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt with Air Academy Associates in Colorado Springs, certification in the BJCP, and a music degree from Berklee College of Music in Boston. Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Adam, thanks so much for having me here. Excited
Absolutely. Welcome to everybody in the chat too. As we go today, make sure to drop any questions that you have. Sometimes when it's an interview pod, the questions aren't always as easy to get to, but drop them in there and we'll do our best. We're going to talk about a wide range of things, and very grateful to see everybody in the chat. Hope you're doing well this evening. So Jeff, a few things that are so interesting. I always think it's so interesting to see where brewers come from. Talk to me a little bit about that music degree.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. So I find a lot of people in the industry have, come from various places and various backgrounds, and I think that's what makes the industry really interesting and dynamic as
Mhm.
well. For me, I grew up at a very young age. I just wanted to play the drums. That was it.
Okay.
And from even in elementary school, I wanted to play drums in a band and tour the world and do all kinds of cool stuff with that. And I'm grateful I got to do some of that. And anyway, that was my main thing. And I never ever would have expected that I would end up where I am right now, teaching brewing science at a university. Like, I don't know where that came from. Like, I don't know how I ended up here, but various factors have led me here. And so yeah, I think, music, beer, there's a natural connection there, I think.
Sure.
Me, like most people in the late 80s, I'm going to date myself now, but in the late 80s, home brewing became a thing, like
Yeah.
a real thing. And, you know, I, I went to Berkeley and graduated there in 1988
Mhm.
with a bachelor's degree in music and with a focus on music technology, essentially electronic music and music synthesis, computer music, that kind of stuff. And played in an awesome band. And funny enough, we're kind of getting back together now these days and doing some more
That's
creative
very cool.
things.
What
Yeah.
genre are kind of your
Ah,
go-tos as far as either for listening or personally playing yourself? Is there any difference?
I'm all over the place with
Yeah.
that. I love to listen to all kinds of interesting things and tend to go towards the more, I don't know, avant-garde, electronic, ambient, experimental music, those kinds of things, but really all over the place, from Black Sabbath to Devo to
Sure.
David Bowie to Aphex Twin,
Were you
whatever.
ever were you ever a Tom Waits guy?
I love Tom Waits. Yeah, Tom Waits
I
is
do love
awesome.
Tom. I do love
Yeah,
Tom Waits too. Yeah, I
yeah, I
find
love it
that
too.
there's I too am someone that has a very wide range, and sometimes I feel bad. So my 14-year-old, he's in the stage where he still thinks I'm a pretty cool guy, and
Oh,
and
nice.
it hurts his feelings when he tells his friends about the music that he gets from me and how he likes it and how he's so surprised that they're not into Tom Waits, just like he
Ah,
is. But everybody's got their taste. You know what I mean? Everybody's
yeah.
got their taste.
I think that's great. My 16-year-old daughter is really into Cocktail Twins now, and
Yeah,
she kind of I didn't force her into that. Like
yeah.
she is a classical musician and plays cello in the school orchestra, and she's awesome. But she's really into a lot of the music that I loved and still love now. So yeah, what comes around.
It is.
Ah,
It's one of those beautiful things. I'm a big Smiths Morrissey fan as well, and so my two of my kids took me to a Morrissey show last year, and it's just it's a special
that's
thing.
fun.
So how do you see do you see like the connection between any connection at all between the music and the beer thing? Is it on the creative side? If so, is there a
Beyond
connection there
100%.
for you? Yeah.
Absolutely. I've been trying to figure this out my whole life. So, yeah, I think, for me, I think the big connection there is, well, music and beer go well together, but it's in creating something wonderful that people enjoy,
Hmm.
and for me, it's, music is a creative process and music is a collaborative process as well. And it is a music really in the end is also a problem solving process too, like where you create and problem solve and create the thing that you want. And it's a iterative thing. And beer is very much the same way. And whether you're collaborating with people at your brewery or collaborating with the raw materials and the yeast and the
Mm,
hops and the water and all the things, it's bringing this all these diverse things together to create something beautiful that people enjoy. And so I think there's that connection there for me, especially. In music and I think everything I've done that I enjoy the most is like I love the intersection of technology and process and
mm,
art and that kind of thing and the more fuzzy side of things and where these things come together, that's like a really exciting space for me. So the band that I was in way back when, if I could describe that, people ask like, what is that like? And by the way, you can go on to Bandcamp, and tomorrow's Bandcamp Friday, by the way, where artists get 100% of the proceeds.
Nice.
So go to bandcamp.com and look up my old band, Think Tree, like thinking like a tree, Think Tree. And
Uh-huh.
we were very technology oriented, but our mission, if we had one, mission was to bring an organic sound and an organic thing out of the technology, which is just hard and like wired and all these kinds of things, you know.
Mhm.
So in beer, it's almost the other way around. Like, especially in a big production brewery like New Belgium or even beyond, we have all these automated processes and
Mm.
technology and online instrumentation, all these things to help you do your craft. And how do you merge that with creating something beautiful and also something that changes all the time, like raw materials and an organism like yeast
Mhm.
and all these things and all the multifactorial things that go into that creation of beer? How do you make that consistent? In
Mm.
music and technology, similar kinds of things. So I think also another similar thing is that music has always been driven by technology too, like
Mm.
new kinds of instruments or new things would challenge composers to compose for those things or find new spaces to go to timbrally or compositionally or whatever it might be. Beer is the same way, you know, over time. Like, yeah, it wasn't too long ago in the 1800s, like humans didn't even know what yeast was, you know, we
Mhm.
didn't have a
Right.
microscope. We did things that like we were told to do, or we had
Yeah.
traditions like singing a song. I love my coworker John, who brings a lot of culture to beer and fermentation, and where he relates that like in cultures around the world, you know, you may not have a timer or a thermometer or whatever. So how long do you mash for? Well, we're going to sing this song for a while. When the song's over, that's how long the mash is, right? So
Yeah,
we have
yeah,
this
yeah.
merging of art and technology, and then the thermometer comes along, and you got this, and then we have a microscope. No, now we understand what yeast is, and
Mhm.
that drives the process, drives the beer, and drives the art of whatever it is. So I don't know. For me, I think the tangible thing for me that, or intangible, whatever we want to look at it, is there's an incredible beauty in the intersection of the art, technology, science process, whatever you want to call it.
Mm. So that spurs a couple of questions in my mind for you when you talk about the art portion of brewing and the science portion of brewing. Does one come before the other? Is one necessary before the other? Are they in unison or the other way around? What's your gut tell you on that?
Wow. I think it could be either way and it can morph depending on what your needs are. You
Mm,
know, like we've been making beer as a species for thousands and thousands of years, you know, and it was part of our nature to
yeah.
harvest things and ferment things and be attracted to things. Like we were attracted to thousands of years ago, if some human was attracted to a bubbling puddle of water with grain in it that smelled fruity, and they
Yeah.
decided to drink it, and there was alcohol in it, and they were like, they saw the other world, and they're like, wow, I want to go there again. That was cool,
Yeah.
and they're inspired to do it again. Like, how do I figure it out?
Mm,
How do I figure that out? Like, oh, there's this grain. I see it over there. That grass, and there's water. I mix that, and then it starts bubbling, and then we have a ritual around that, whatever. So like
mhm,
it all depends, time and place. I think music and or beer can be approached either way. From a
mhm,
technological point of view, if you're trying to make consistent beers, certainly you need to know the science. You need to know how to read a malt certificate of analysis. You need to know what's going into your beer and how to make it consistent. And but if you're an artisanal brewery on the corner somewhere, maybe somewhere in Belgium or whatever, and you have your own family farm and you're harvesting the thing, you know your beer is going to be different every time. And maybe it's getting sour because you have fooders or barrels or whatever, and there's oxygen ingress and all this happening, and your process might be different. It's an art of blending because this year it came out really acetic, and the next
yeah.
year it came out less acetic, it was more malic, and whatever it is. And now I'm going to blend those things like we do at New Belgium in the wood beer cellar, and we make art out of that. So maybe the art comes before that, you know, like we throw caution to the wind, the bugs do the things, and we
Sure.
blend it together. There's art to that, right?
Sure.
So And there's some science too, always sensory science. I think you need both. I teach brewing science. I think that's really important. Um, in the classes at CSU, we're science oriented. We are the fermentation and food science program.
Mm-hmm.
There's science of food and science of beer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of the things that you mentioned, it was one of the other questions that popped up for me. Talking a little bit, referencing a little bit craft and scale at different places. New Belgium is a large production place, especially in comparison to a lot of the smaller pubs. Obviously, there's breweries out there larger, but what is that? What do you think are the challenges between the notion that we've become accustomed to the meaning of craft and scale? Because I think sometimes for some people there is an automatic disqualifier with scale when it comes to defining what craft is. Case in point, there's a brewery by us that has become a regional distributing brewery, and they do a great job with marketing. They make good beer. And at a certain point, sometimes people don't like that. Some of the locals don't like when the place gets too big, right? In your mind, are there challenges between the idea of maintaining craft as you grow in scale?
It's a great question. I think it comes down to authenticity. Because we know the Brewers Association, they've been around for a long time, and it used to be the IB, Institute of Brewing, or whatever it was, and IOB. And I've been in this industry for a long time, since the early '90s, and they were pretty young, and they've always been an amazing champion of craft beer, and they still are. And I respect that and have much gratitude for all of that. And over the years, they've constantly redefined what is craft beer. It's the question you're asking. What is craft beer?
Sure.
And it used to be like, well, craft beer is a brewery that makes under 100,000 barrels a year. I forget what it was. Maybe it's under a million barrels a year. And then it was like, well, Sam Adams grew above 1 million barrels, and like they're all malt, so they're still craft. So now, okay, craft brewing is anything under 2 million, and it's about all malt. And then it was like, well, okay, at the beginning, people were not cool with putting corn in their beer. Well,
sure,
it's Mexican lagers, like the new thing. So new old thing, whatever it is, it all comes around. But
yes.
Okay, now BA's like, well, it's got to be under 2 million barrels, and you can't have it's all malt. But then like, well, you can have up to 25% corn. That's okay. You're still craft. Or as long as you're not. And now it's like, as long as you're not owned by more than 46 or 51% of a big brewer that makes something with a bunch of corn in it, then you're still craft. It's a spectrum, I guess. But I think for me, it comes down to authenticity, and it comes down to the liquid in your glass. It comes down to innovation. It comes down to being an amazing champion for the industry, perhaps as well. Where do you draw that line? And as you scale, certainly you have different challenges. If you're growing, like maybe the brewery that you're mentioning, and it doesn't matter who it is, but like you're growing from a small scale on the corner, and you start packaging your beer, like, wow, I really got something, I'm going to grow it. And then you start getting challenged with the scale of suppliers. Maybe you got that special ingredient, and like you can't get the amount that you need. You got to figure out a different way to do it. How do you do that authentically? In the end, it's how the beer tastes, and what is craft, what is not craft. It used to be macro versus whatever. When I got started in the industry, there was a bit of that going on. Like, we're craft brewers and we're all malt, and we don't want to make that yellow beer, but like many people like me at the time had a lot of respect for those people who were making the yellow beer, because I didn't know what the F I was doing, like I was a home brewer, and now we're trying to distribute this stuff. Like, oh, please teach me. Like, how do you make that yellow beer really well? Because you're really good at it. I want to learn from you, So I think what makes a good craft beer, I think it's about being curious and learning and making something authentic, and not just making it for the money. I mean, there's a lot of that going on. I think, gimmick beers, whatever it is, people are looking for the next best thing, but
Hmm.
that's a good question. Craft versus whatever. To me, it's a spectrum. There's no division there, but I know, you know, the independent label seal. Maybe it's an independent brewery versus a big brewery, whatever. And
Sure.
here I am I'm in the middle somewhere. Maybe, New Belgium sponsors my position at CSU. I've been with New Belgium. It'll be 25 years next year. And we do all of it.
Yeah.
We make the biggest selling IPA in the country.
Yeah.
And it's doing great and introducing people to a lot of different beer flavors and all the things that we do, all the way down to the triple 1554, which just
Yeah.
won an award at GBF, by the
Beautiful.
way.
Congrats.
It's
Congrats.
pretty cool. And finally, that's great. And then we've got like the biggest wood beer seller in North America, and we're
Yeah.
doing all this amazing stuff. And much kudos to my former coworker Lauren, who just retired, doing all that merging. So we're big, but we also do. I mean, since we're big, are you going to call all the fooders sour beer that we do not craft?
Right.
I don't think so. That's
Absolutely.
super crafty. That's super artisanal,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So something that I thought, because you mentioned gimmick, and I did a panel discussion a few months back, and we were kind of having this conversation between or surrounding gimmick. For you, what is the difference between gimmick and innovation?
Wow, good. I set myself up for that one. Sorry.
Well, no. Well, and it's not a gotcha. It's not a gotcha at all.
No, I appreciate that. No, you got me thinking. I didn't really think about when I said gimmick. I'm like, oh god, now I got to define that. Like,
okay. Well, I'll say gimmick, and I mean, I don't have any problem with saying it. If when you're putting Fruit Loops in the mash and a beer, and you're doing a fruit, you know what I mean? Like, to me, that's a gimmick. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I'll call myself out on this. I don't think my coworkers are going to mind, but like Malort beer, Malort Brûlée beer.
Yeah.
From my awesome coworkers in New Belgium who did that. That is so cool. But really limited release. It brings attention to the Voodoo Ranger brand.
Yes.
Totally get it. And it's great. And sadly, I haven't gotten to try that yet. So if any of my coworkers are listening, I would like to try the Malort beer. I've never had Malort. I've heard it's super bitter, but I'm interested. So I don't know. I think there's time and place for that. If that gets people to go in a direction and discover some other things. I mean,
sure, that's marketing to me. It's like marketing. That's sharp marketing, because that was popping. I mean, that was popping in the social media space. It works.
100%.
Yeah, there's nothing
beer.
wrong with that.
We did a pizza beer, and would I drink more than half of one of those? I don't think so. It's well done.
Sure.
It tasted like pizza, but I don't know if I want that in my beer. But if that does something for somebody to bring them into a place where they can discover other things that New Belgium or whoever makes, like for me, that's why I got into beer. Like, that's another thing. Like, maybe it's a music beer connection too.
Yeah.
I love to discover new music. I really love it. And if you got anything out there you want to send my way, I want to check it out.
Sure.
And for me, beer, I love to discover flavors. So when I started trying craft beer or new beers in the late 80s, I was in Boston working at a convenience store, and they were bringing in some brands. Sam Adams was one of them. Harpoon was another one. Geary's Pale Ale. Geary's from up in Maine was another one. And I think that was probably about it. Maybe we had some Anchor, Anchor beer. I'm sure it was oxidized coming across the country. Who knows how long it took? But to me, that beer was like, whoa, I've never had a beer like this. When I tried Harpoon for the first time, I got a beer from the convenience store I worked at, Harpoon Ale. Pretty much straight up like craft ale, maybe pale ale, maybe 25 BU. I don't even know.
Yeah.
But man, it smelled fruity and estery, and like I had never had a beer like that. It blew my mind.
Yeah.
So I think, gimmick beer versus innovation, those play together for sure. But the journey of discovery for me for beer is huge, just like it is for music. But I think then there's a time and place. So you go Malort, cool. Whoa, Voodoo Ranger, never heard of that. I'm gonna check out all the Voodoo Ranger. Oh, what else do they make? Oh, they make La Folie. Cool.
Yeah.
That's what's amazing about beer. I hope we can all keep a mind to that as an industry and keep that up.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah.
No, that's fun. When I was reading through your bio, one of the things that stuck out to me, because you've been in the industry for such a long time, you've had such a range of experiences. What was it like in 2022 getting the Best Teacher Award at CSU?
I felt like I had an out of body experience. I never intended to be in an academic space, and I do enjoy teaching. I think throughout my career, I've always enjoyed sharing ideas
Mm,
and learning. And I tell my students all the time too, like, I'm not up here to teach you how it goes down. I'll share my experience and I'll share the science. I'm going to tell you
yeah.
about these things, but I'm also here to learn about you. And today was a great example of that, where we went over our midterm exam and they're picking apart my questions, and I'm like, man, it's a lot harder to write a multiple choice question than it is to take one. So like, I don't
Oh
have a
yeah.
teaching background. I didn't
Yeah.
learn how to teach. To get that award was like, whoa, I felt like I was out of body kind of experience, because I'm there with other folks at CSU who are like academics, like that's their career. And they're like, wow,
Yeah.
but I felt at home with them. Like, I think the common theme with all of them that I shared is that we create an inclusive, collaborative classroom, like
Yeah.
where we enjoy learning about how each person in that room thinks about things in different ways, in a multi-dimensional way, and how you can approach problems in different ways. And one of my friends over at CSU, Johnny Plastini, he we've ended up doing collaboration since. He got an award that year as well as best teacher. It's
Mhm.
multiple, like I don't know how many they give, but
Sure.
there's maybe 4 or 5 across the campus.
Hmm.
And we got to talking, like he's a home brewer, and like we got to share. And
Yeah.
now his students and also one of the other professors in the art department collaborate with my students on creating beers and labels and artwork for their
Oh
beers. So we
yeah.
have
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
whole thing
Yeah.
that we do now. And
Yeah.
like, I think it's the spirit of collaboration in the classroom. I
Mhm.
feel like it's a collaborative experience for me. I'm not up there like lecturing you, like, this is how it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because, in brewing, if somebody's telling you, like, this is how it is, like, I'll be like, I'm going to go listen to somebody else, because we all know
Sure.
that in brewing, everything depends. It
Yes.
all depends. There's no
Yes.
one way to do it. There's no one way
Yes.
to approach it. There's never one solution. There's never one root cause.
Hmm.
It's different things. So to get there, you need different experiences and different thought processes. So I forgot what the question was now. Sorry.
No, you're good, dude. You're good. You're totally good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that, as we're having this conversation, because we're also talking on this idea of innovation, and different people have different thoughts around this, because to me, it's always a question of like, all right, so how many new things are being done with beer now? Yes, we can be gaining a deeper understanding of things. There can be more research. There's new ingredients. There's new products. The concept of New England IPA, hazy IPA, whatever you might call it, can be a little bit of a debated one among brewers. Do you find the rise of hazy over the last, I mean, we're getting close to a decade. Do you find that to be innovation or something else? And this is a personal opinion thing. This isn't like
Mm.
there's a right or wrong there. I'm just interested in your take.
I think that's probably evolution and amplification.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just thinking about this now, like from that perspective, like how did that come about?
Uh-huh.
I was lucky enough to be at Harpoon Brewing when my mentor and brewmaster brewer there, Todd Mott, who much respected in the industry. I'm gonna give a little story here and then get into this
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
about New England IPA. But back then, when I was homebrewing, I was interested in maybe doing it on a larger scale and understanding how that worked. I had never done a full all grain mash in the kitchen at the band house before.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Making beer there, serving it to all my bandmates and other people. but never did that. And so I wrote a letter to like, there were like 3 breweries in New England at the time. It was like Catamount, Harpoon, Commonwealth Brewing, right? It was probably those. Maybe there was Sam Adams. I don't remember. They were there, but I don't know if I wrote a letter. I'm like, hey, I want to learn more about brewing. Can I come and work for you? Like, I just want to learn. Todd Mott was the person who wrote me back and said, yeah, why don't you come on down and you can volunteer and wash kegs, right? This is how it works. You learn through an apprenticeship. And I knew about home brewing and I knew a bit of stuff. And I was like, I'm ready to go, throw some hops, whatever. But he got me washing kegs for a few weeks to come down. It was hard to get down to the seaport at the time, but I did it and it was great. But I was so happy at the time. Todd is just a really inspired, amazing brewer. And he had come from Catamount Brewing and whatever. And background as a potter, by the way. So there's another thing. I know that he was in the pottery. And I hope Todd, I don't know if Todd's listening, but whatever. People know him, you know him. But anyway, he was like, I want to make an IPA. I'm like, that's cool. Like I made a IPA home brewing and I got to like, I was like, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? Like toasting your malt in like an oven to make a different kind of malt? Because back then, like you could only get like 2 kinds of yeast.
Sure.
You could only buy like 3 kinds of malt. It was like pale, crystal, chocolate. You know, I was doing stuff in the oven like, I'm gonna take some pale malt and toast it in the oven and make like some high dried kind of malt thing. And and so whatever. But hey, long story short, he's like, I'm gonna do an IPA. And it was pretty much a souped up Sierra Nevada. It was like 6% something, Cascade hops, more BU, so more. This is the amplification part. And to me, Harpoon IPA was the first New England IPA. I actually think it may have been one of the first like American IPAs after, I'm going to credit Ballantine because there was Ballantine IPA, but probably, and then I also got to credit Anchor because there was Anchor IPA too, Liberty IPA. But I think Todd was way ahead of his time. And so I got to brew that with him. It was really like, that was amazing. First batch of Harpoon IPA and like, cool, you get to dig out the mash tun. It was sweaty, whatever. That was great. And anyway, and then things evolved and they evolved more and like more. And then there was that whole period in the 90s, like more bitter, like the Alpha King Challenge, 100 BUs, more. And I think hazy IPA is the epitome of that because as you put more hops in, guess what happens to your beer when you put more hops in, more tannins and more proteins, boom, cloudy. Like that's a recipe for cloudy right there. It's protein polyphenol complex, right? So it's like, I don't know how to get that out because I just started my brewery and I don't know how to filter or get any of that out. And I can't, even if I filtered, it's going to suck.
Sure.
So freaking cloudy. And in fact, there's hop chunks floating around. So I'm just going to amplify it more. And it's like, oh, boom, like go with the dank aromas, go with whatever. So I forgot what the question is again. But anyway, like the rise of hazy IPA is about amplification. And it's also, I think, you know, way back when there were gateway beers into craft brewing. It was Sam Adams Boston Ale. The first time I had a Sam Adams Boston Ale, which is kind of I don't even know if they still make it. There's Boston Lager and Boston Ale. Boston Lager, okay, pretty much straightforward lager, but like looking back, that was a hoppy beer. Lots of Hallertau.
Yes.
Boston Ale was also really hoppy. It was Goldings, Fuggles, whatever's an English pale ale or whatever. And I was like, whoa, blown away. Sierra Nevada, boom, hops. But then it was like, okay, maybe you got some gateway beers back then. You get in pretty easy. You can assimilate it, like, cool. And then you're going to work your way up and like, wow, now we're going to really explore this thing. And hazy IPA is all about like slapping you over the face. And then you're like, yeah, cool, man, like this super hoppy beer. And it's all, to me, it's very one-dimensional. But also I see how that could drive craft beer. Like it's starting to become this. And like, I know that was a long time ago now. I have feelings around all that. I feel I'm trying to reflect on I've been reflecting on where we are in the industry now. I'm certainly no expert, certainly no marketer. I don't know where the crystal ball is. But I have some feelings that those beer flavors, those strong, intense flavors of hops and bitterness and hazy and all that, I have a sense that has killed craft beer. It has let craft beer down, and it was successful for a while as everybody was going all in and finding the next big, great, amazing like thing, all that thing. But what we lost was drinkability. Like, how many of those are you going to have? Maybe if you're into it, you're going to put down a couple of those things. But then the alcohol is going up. You want a
Yeah.
session with that, like you're on the floor, your
Yeah.
taste buds are saturated because the
Yeah.
hops are sticking there. It smells like weed. It
Yeah.
smells like whatever,
Yeah.
mango, coconut, all the
Yeah.
stuff. I respect all that. It's cool, time and place. But
Yeah.
like, I think it's killed it because those people who got in on those beers when they were younger, maybe,
Hmm.
and they discover craft beer, that IPA, I found the amazing thing. It's the most bitter, amazing, hoppy or aromatic thing. And then now they got kids, and the kids are
Hmm.
growing up and like they want to share a beer with their parents and like, hey,
Yeah.
why don't you try this beer? And it's
Yeah.
an 8.5% triple IPA, like mosaic, dank, onion skin, like whatever, at like 400 BUs. And the kid
Sure.
tries it and they're like, here's a beer, kid. And you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, I don't like that. I
Yeah.
wonder if that's why like people are not like, and now people don't even know it's beer. It's like IPA, give me a beer, give me an
Hmm.
IPA. What they don't even, I thought IPA was beer, but now I'm not sure.
Hmm.
So I don't
Hmm.
know. I wonder if that's turned some people off and like, I don't know, possibly a theory there. I don't know.
No, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, increasingly when you look at store shelves, especially in supermarkets in my area, you see IPA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the craft beer section just appears to be IPA. What's in your glass, by the way? I know you're drinking a beer.
Oh, I'm having some Cam's Crusher, which is about, sorry,
Oh, you
my
good?
dog has it. Our dog has an anger problem. And I think my daughter just came home. So anyway, Bruno's got an anger problem. But having some Cam's Crusher, um, stole a growler of this when we made it, and it's a beer we serve at the stadium over at CSU. It's like a
Okay.
5.4%, 25% adjunct lager. It's
Yeah, yeah,
kind of a
yeah.
Mexican lager.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
What do
pretty
you
pretty
what do
easy drinking.
you what do you enjoy about making beers like that? I find those beers
Uh
incredibly, and it might seem strange. I find those beers incredibly rewarding to make. But yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, tell me why
Me
you
too.
feel that way.
Me too, because there's a lot of finesse and subtlety that goes into a
Yeah.
beer like that. And any beer like that something's off on, you're gonna get it like right
Hmm.
away. Like, um, I can have a couple of these or
Yes.
more,
Yeah.
if I'm in the mood. And I'm not gonna be lying on the floor. I'm not gonna be scraping my teeth off the hop residue,
Sure.
like, and don't get me wrong. So I like to try the hoppy beers.
Yes.
And also I want to harken back Harpoon IPA, which they still make. I
Yeah.
love it. It
Yeah.
is still a great beer. Those were great drinkable beers. They're going to be offer you a little bit more than your standard beer, like hops, whatever. But a lot of these flavors are melding in together versus just hitting yourself over the head, hitting
Hmm.
somebody over the head with a sledgehammer of
Sure.
like boom hops,
Sure.
and everything. So I wonder too, like, yeah, I think there's a lot of finesse that goes in this. My brewing science classes in the second semester, the first semester, my co-teacher John and I come up with the recipes for the students. We do like a
Hmm.
malt forward beer, we do a yeast
Hmm.
forward beer, we do a hop forward beer. By the way, we got a couple IPAs in process now, and one
Nice.
of them is quite bitter.
Yeah.
And Cascade Centennial, like slamming you over the head, but yeah, it's still pretty drinkable,
Sure.
but it
Sure.
probably about 50 BUs or something with some cryo hop thing. And
Yeah.
it's cool, but it's hoppy, right?
Yeah.
But the next semester, they now have all the tools that they built up during the class. They've essentially built all their own brewing calculators. We
Hmm.
don't use Beersmith or any of those standard
Yeah.
things. Like, I have them build the calculator so they can understand
Yes.
how to what are the inner workings of determining what your malt bill is. How do you
Hmm.
hit your targets for OG and alcohol and RDF and all these things? So next semester, we have them brew a 4 to 4.5% kind of a Kolsch
Hmm.
with 20 BUs and three malts, maybe a couple hops, and make it taste great, but hit the targets. Got to hit the
Sure.
color, hit the bitterness, hit the alcohol, hit the yield. I
Yeah.
want X number of liters of this, and you got to
Yeah.
hit the yield. Build me the recipe, and you got to know your brew house yield. All these technical things, all the science, and they realized pretty quick. Like, one thing they realize is if they apply the science, they can pretty many times they hit that first batch right off the gate, and they have a pretty
Sure.
good beer that they could
Hmm.
probably sell. but maybe the alcohol is a little high or a little
Sure.
low or the color's a little off, and they tweak it. So what they realize when we do the sensory is like any little flavor that's not supposed to be in there. Maybe it's too much acetaldehyde or there's some diacetyl or maybe whatever it is, hop burners off, like they taste it. If we had to make an imperial stout or some big IPA hazy thing, they'd never get that subtlety. They'd never understand how to make like a drinkable beer that you might want to have
Sure.
more than one of, right?
Sure.
To me, it's, I hate to say it, and I got to give credit and kudos to the amazing brewers who make these beers, and they've made a living on this. They have a successful business on hazy IPAs.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for that. But in some ways, on a small scale, maybe it's kind of one dimensional, just to chuck a bunch
Sure.
of hops in the something, and not worry about if it's clear or not, and
Sure.
go. But serve it fresh, and a lot of kudos there, like serving hoppy beer fresh. That's being a champion of fresh beer. I think that is amazing. So
sure.
yeah.
Let's dip into that. Let's dip into that light lager a little bit. For you, when it comes to putting together like a grist for a light beer like that, you had mentioned that you're using adjunct. What kind of percentage range do you like for adjunct? What do you like to have for a base malt and something like that? Are you like a domestic pills, a 2-row guy? What kind of adjunct do you like to fold in when you build the grist stout on a beer like that?
I think less is more in brewing. There's so many factors to get your head around as a brewer in general that contribute to the final beer flavor. Not just the raw materials, temperatures, times, pHs, concentrations, all those things that you do as a brewer contribute to the final thing. This is kind of where you put the art to it and put all those things together. But less is more. So this beer I'm having, it is, and CSU, I use all local malts because I love to support the industry and we love to collaborate and support each other. So this malt is Troubadour Pevic Pils malt from a malt store right down the street from here, a few miles from where I live, and that and 25% flaked maize in this one. The first iteration of this, we used some Pils malt from Troubadour and also Root Shoot Malting, which is another awesome maltster down in Berthoud, about 15 miles from here down south. And they are a multi-generational family barley farmer that now do a lot of that do craft malting. And so we use some of their Pils malt, Troubadour Pils, and they also started malting corn. So we used some malted corn in the first one. But they're both around 25, maybe 28% adjunct. So to give it that thing, and again, it's kind of based around Mexican lager kind of thing. And this one we used your standard 3470 yeast. I got a shout out to the first batch we did this iterated from was the original the CSU Cerveza Especial. That yeast came from Inland to Island yeast down in Denver. They're a partner with the program. They do a great job with quality control and make great yeast. And we used them. What yeast will I choose from them? Like, oh, it's called Mexican lager yeast. I'm going to use that. And it was great. And the 3470 is great too. So I think less is more. And then it's all about the subtlety, like hit proper mash pH, understand your water hardness and alkalinity and how that's going to affect your beer. Are you adding calcium? How does that counteract alkalinity in your beer? And how much are you using? And, where do I expect to end up here? And, what's my hop bill? And this is probably, it's a pretty low, 12, 14 BUs, something. There's an initial hop, again, less is more. I love, maybe I'm stuck on it. Magnum's a great bittering hop. It's like super, super Hallertau, but it's a great bittering hop, 1% alpha, and you don't need to use much to get your BUs for the main edition. But I think I spread it out at the end. There might be some Hallertau T45. I forget what we had. I tend to be kitchen sink brewer over at CSU. What do we got kicking around? We'll get some donations or whatever. And we'd use whatever we have. So a little bit of Hallertau, but it's not a hop forward beer. Just a little bit to kind of bring the spice, like boom, you kind of wave it over there and like it sets it off,
Something I'm always interested in getting opinions on when it comes to building out these light lager type beers. there's a few different ways that you can go with your adjuncts. For you, how do these beers, how would this beer manifest differently if it were brewed with the same percentage of rice versus maize, or even just substituting rice for dextrose within certain reasonable limits as far as percentages? So for you, just kind of, what does making that beer with rice give you as compared to maize or even dex? What's your thought on that?
I mean, my first thought from the science brain is I'm just looking for some glucose, man. Like, give me some simple sugars.
Yeah.
That's it.
Uh-huh.
I'm not looking for maltose when I'm using adjunct. Probably from a bean counter stage, I'm like looking to make it cost less. I'm not so worried about that at CSU, but we all know that's why adjunct beers have become what they are, because it's cheaper to get corn grits or it's cheaper to get rice, right? So that is an ingredient. You can get some sugar and not spend so much money. The ironic thing is, when I went to get this flaked maize, I was like, holy crap, flaked maize is like $1 a pound.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Then to get I love root shoot. They make this malted corn. It's beautiful. It has a certain character to it, which is cool, but wasn't quite what I was looking for in the beer. So I blended. I used some of that and some other thing and some flake maize together to kind of balance it. And I love the flavor of their malted corn a lot. But man, that malted corn was expensive, because of course they took a lot of care. It should be. They took a lot of care to make it.
Sure.
So yeah, in terms of if I'm thinking rice or corn, like I'm looking for glucose. And from a recipe design standpoint, I'm looking for simple sugars just to make some alcohol and not really have any character. I'm not looking for corn character. And I wonder if people are looking for corn character, like I know a lot of people are like, I want that corn character in my Mexican lager. Well, that's probably DMS, right? And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes, correct.
I tell my students all the time this, and I'm like, hey, everybody, guess what? There are no off flavors. No, off flavors don't exist.
Sure.
An off flavor is something you don't want in your beer. Now, for this lager, I don't want caprylic acid.
Yeah.
That's an off flavor in this beer. But if I have a little bit of DMS in here, maybe that's my corn kind of malty. That it's a light beer to bring a little DMS in, brings in a little bit of maltiness. DMS is not an off flavor. So you decide what your off flavors are and what they're not. For me, for Red Hook ESB for many years, and some of you out there may know that Red Hook ESB, diacetyl is not an off flavor. It's part of the profile. There's nothing wrong with that, right? So don't go around saying there's off flavors. Now, some of them I can get on board with you.
Yes.
Acetaldehyde smells like a hangover. Not into it. But please.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
So please control your acetaldehyde, because that is actually what is happening in your body during a hangover. There's excess acetaldehyde that is like in your body. Like, that is not good. But so I'll give you that one. But I mean, I'm having a nice lambic and it smells like the belly of a wet goat hair thing. That's fine. It's not an off flavor. But
I love it. I love it.
So,
well,
I think
go
back to rice and corn. If I pick an adjunct like that, I'm not really looking for flavor. If I'm picking an adjunct like sugar, like we just made Campus Krampus over at CSU, and it's a winter warmer, British ale yeast, no spices. Like you get the spice from other things. That has Demerara sugar. Demerara sugar is like a raw sugar, and yes, I'm going to get glucose or simple sugars from that to ferment. I'm also going to get some caramely flavors from that. That's cool. I'm looking for that,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, as we were talking about doing this podcast and as evident through the bio that I read with you, a wide range of experiences, And, you have managed to do something that not everybody does in this field is, building a career. And it wasn't necessary. It didn't seem to be, in the pre-show chat that we had, and even in your bio, not everything is always a straight line. Sometimes you have to acquire new skills. You have to keep your eyes open. Talk to us a little bit about forging a career in craft beer.
Wow, that's a great one. So I didn't really know how to do any of that when I started. I followed my passion, and my passion was beer and brewing. And I think if you can follow what your passion is and stay curious, you will find your career. You will find it. And for me, I've always liked to learn about new things. And when I started brewing, by the way, when the doors were opened up for me, it was in I got a homebrew kit for Christmas from my girlfriend at the time at her family's house out in Amherst, Mass. And I opened up this book, The Complete Joy of Homebrewing by Charlie Papazian, like many as a kid.
Charlie, yeah,
And then I was completely antisocial the rest of the day. I think I was like in the book, like, what the fuck? I can make some beer. Like, what's up? And,
yes.
Yeah. So like follow that. And for me, it was like the next thing. I mean, when I was at Tremont, I was the first employee there. I was just a home brewer working at a homebrew store and stuff. And the two owners, Chris and Alex, were there buying homebrew stuff. I'm like, what's up? I'm like, oh, we're starting a brewery. You're like, haha, yeah, sure you are. And they did. And they're like, oh, do you want to work for us? I'm like, okay. And let's figure it out together. And we made so much great beer and grew that brewery like to what it was, almost 10,000 barrels a year in like 7 some odd years over the 90s, and all distributed within like 50 miles. It was cool. And but whatever, I had to learn a lot of stuff. One day it was like, hey, we just bought $1 million German packaging line from Krohn's with a rotary filler, a labeler, and all the conveyors and all the shit. And by the way, it's showing up on the dock in about a week. And can you figure out how to put that together? And I'm like, fuck, I don't know. And so okay, cool. Like there's a contractor and we all were working to figure it out together. And you took a Krohn's packaging class on like filling and that, 3 vacuums of the whole thing. Like, holy crap. Like I was packaging with a little plastic wand in my homebrew. What I mean? And when I was at Harpoon, like, we were only doing kegs, so I can tell you all about kegs. But so you learn that, and then the next thing, like, how do you make consistent beer? How do you do 2 brews a day or whatever it is? And New Belgium provided so many opportunities for that. Oh my god! Like pretty early on in my career there, it was like, hey, somebody had this crazy. I think it was Lauren or that I mentioned earlier. Like, hey, we want to make this beer where we blend some Belgian, like actual lambic beer into our beer, and we're going to collaborate and make this beer called Transatlantic Creek. And myself and Eric Salazar, who was there at the time, who's wood beer person for a long time, were tasked with like, how do we figure this out now? And our brewmaster Peter, who's awesome, I worked for him for a long time there. He's like, I don't know about bringing this lambic beer into our brewery because it's got Brettanomyces and all this stuff that's going to float around and it's going to infect fat tire. We're making like 90% fat tire at the time. And like, we don't want that to taste like the belly of a goat. We don't want that. So I'm like, we're trying to figure out like, how do we bring this beer in and not infect everything? And I'm like, hey, at Tremont, we used to sterile filter our beer. So in the 90s, I was sterile filtering beer down to like, 0.65 micron. That's how we how we stabilize our beer microbiologically. And so I'm like, why don't we try that? So I actually think I may be one of the first people with the team. We were all working together, Eric, myself. I think Bill Hepp was there too. I think we were the first people ever to sterile filter lambic beer and bring it into our brewery off this container that came from Belgium. So I got to learn about that. And then it was like, oh, we need some improvements on efficiency. And one of my coworkers, I think it's Bill, and he's like, hey, other breweries use a centrifuge. Why don't we use a centrifuge? I'm like, oh, I don't know. And like, I'll learn about centrifuges and figure out how to do that. So worked with the production manager. And then it was like can feasibility at New Belgium. Like, hey, Oscar Blues is doing cans. Like maybe we should do some cans, and like maybe it's going to be a big thing because everyone's
How hot
bottling
was
it.
that debate around moving to cans? Because
It was pretty
obviously,
hot.
I
Yeah,
bet, I bet.
it was. It was a hot debate at the time, and not sure if we wanted to invest in that. And I guess I'm always the one who's going to throw my hat in. Like, I'll do it. I don't
Yes,
know
yeah.
anything. I don't know jack shit about this thing, but I'll try it. And work with the people and figure this thing out. And so I got right in the middle. I'm like, yeah, I'll figure out cans. And like,
Yeah.
do we want to do it or not? Like, let's learn about cans. We go down to Ball Corporation, whatever it is. This is how you grow a career. You just curious and you just put yourself out there and try it. And it was
Are you
amazing.
somebody? Are you somebody? So first of all, I love that because I've got another buddy, completely different industry, but he's always the person in the meeting where they say, who can do this, and he'll volunteer without knowing how to do it. You know what I mean? Not that I'm saying that that's the exact
Right.
same thing with what you're saying, but you're
Maybe.
willing to step up into those spots now. So
Yeah.
I think that's almost a skill set in and of itself. Now, do you feel as if you are somebody that has always had kind of the natural hands-on mechanical aptitude, or was that something that was developed over time?
Good question. I think I've always been naturally hands-on,
Mhm.
even as a kid. Like, I love to figure out problems. I love to learn about things, and I love to make things. And like, I think that was probably something early on for me. Like, but having mechanical skills, like, yeah, I was there with my dad working on his VW Bug, turning it into a dune buggy, turning a wrench. You
Yeah,
know, I
yeah,
was tuning carburetors on my bus.
yeah.
Whatever. Like, so I think there's that there mechanically, but I think it comes maybe more from curiosity too. So, I mean, going back to the original question about how do you make a career kind of thing.
Mm, mm,
For me, I've moved around a lot. I think there's other ways, probably better ways to do it than I did.
mhm.
But I mean, crap, I've found myself in an IT, you know, IT technology situation and learning about, data cubes and multi-dimensional databases, right? But I guess I find myself in situations where I can communicate and talk all the different languages to people, like
Mhm.
talk to the IT person and talk to the finance and accounting person, talk to the brewing person. What are your needs? Like, let's put it together. Maybe it's that front end thing. So I find myself in these weird situations. The cider project I did at New Belgium was the same thing. That was like, hey, we're thinking about making a hard cider. Who's interested in cider? I'm like, oh, I made cider about 20 years ago. It was pretty good.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I got some juice from Vermont and fermented it, like just
yeah,
let it go wild, and it was awesome. And
yeah.
everybody got pretty ripped on that stuff because it was crazy. But
That stuff,
at a
it goes.
party,
People always forget how strong that stuff goes.
oh
You're
man,
used
I
to
put honey in
fermenting,
it.
malt sugars and whatnot. Some are going to stay in there, but no, man,
Oh
that stuff
man.
rips all the way dry, man. Yeah, it's always strong.
Yeah, so build a career, stay curious, and you don't always know where you're going to go. So even if you have an end goal, whatever, it may go in a different direction. So
Sure.
yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah, good question. How
I
do you,
found
yeah.
I found myself. I've been in this place myself. I've talked to other people in the industry that have hit the same thing, and I think sometimes we close ourselves off to what our options are. Like
Mm,
in certain cases, I'll say, well, okay, I want to be a brewer. I want to be making beer. I want this, that, or the other thing, but we don't keep our eyes open for opportunity. Now, I think at a place like New Belgium, in a certain way, it seems as if opportunity, because of the way the company has grown, opportunity was potentially evident. Maybe not everybody saw the opportunity popping off around them, but opportunities for growth, evolution, and whatnot. I think a lot of times people can miss out on those things because I think something I've been guilty of is through my career and maybe even personal life is sometimes I can just be focused on myself and my own little world that I'm not seeing what's going on out here or thinking big picture about what's going on out here. And I think flipping around that view is very important to kind of staying ahead or at least recognizing opportunity when it comes to you.
Yeah, totally. I think again, it probably stems from being curious, but I think you need to, or at least what's helpful for me is being able to see things both ways.
Hmm.
See it from the infinitely microscopic world of like going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into like how do we express this ester from the yeast in the beer, and it's really deep versus maybe it's big picture growing a company. I'm grateful for being with New Belgium during a time we've had tremendous growth and tremendous challenges, and and that encompass so many things. How do we grow and still be profitable? That was like our really part of our core values and belief is to be a profitable company. And if we're
Hmm.
not profitable, then nobody has a job and we're not doing anything. We can't do all the other things that are
Yes.
on the list of core values, like
Yes.
be a world-class brewer, be innovative, have
Hmm.
some fun. I'm crediting Kim with all this. Kim
Sure.
is just such an amazing leader. And so you come out to the big picture too, like what do we need to do to get there? And then it's creative thinking and problem solving. Like, what do we need to work on next? Do we need to
Hmm.
spend, for instance, I worked on this project with our brewmaster and some others, like, do we need to spend another $25 million on another bank of fermenters
Sure.
and build out? Or can we reduce the standard deviation of our fermentation time to, we got down to 3 hours predictably
Yeah.
on our main beer, and delay that capital expense X number of years and be more profitable? Like, cool. I think it's a problem solving thing. And I get it. Like, I think some people, they just want to work in their space, and that's
Sure.
cool. Like,
Sure.
they probably go home and rest a lot easier at night than I do sometimes, I think, because I'm always thinking about stuff. But yeah. So I think, yeah, you got to keep your radar open. If you're interested in
Sure.
a career, where does it take? I know many brewers have gone to supply chain, like this
Yeah.
suppliers,
Yes,
like they've
absolutely.
gone on to be supplying, things from like companies that supply all the things you want, like raw materials or
Yep.
processing aids, whatever it is. They have an amazing career that way, and
Yeah.
I've seen others go into sales or wherever it is. So yeah,
Yep.
be open to it.
What role do you think friendship and collaboration has played in your capacity to build a career in our industry?
Wow, I think was, now that I look back at it, I probably didn't know it then, but I think that was probably the main thing that drew me into craft brewing in the 90s.
Hmm.
You're with your friends, they're starting a business, and you get paid and get to do something that you love and that you're passionate about, and you get to collaborate and talk to some other people who are doing that same sort of
Hmm.
thing. For me, being at Tremont back in the 90s and having that opportunity to be at a startup brewery and to work with my friends there, and we work hard, play hard, whatever. We had a lot of connections to the music industry. I was part of the
Hmm.
music industry then, and some of them had connections as well. Like, we brought it, it was a scene, man. We created a scene and a community around it, right?
Hmm.
And along with the other brewers, like I'd been at Harpoon, but we were also good friends with people from Commonwealth Brewery and friends from Sam Adams and other brewers around who were coming up at the time. Um, we all would share a beer together and talk about how we made beer and what worked and what didn't work. How'd your day go? What sucked? What didn't suck? Like, how do we be more safe and make sure we get out of this thing alive? Because we
Sure.
didn't know if we would, because
Yeah.
nobody knew what they were doing. You know, we had we had to work together because nobody knew what they were doing. Like, we had to do that, or we were gonna die.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
That's
know,
funny. Yeah.
like that role, like that was such a huge attraction for me. And then we make the beer and go out and do a beer dinner, and other brewers would show up and enjoy your beer, and then you enjoy their beer and you talk about it. Like, I love what's going on with your stout. Like, how'd you do that? Like, oh, I used some roasted barley from so and so, whatever it was, you know. And man, I love that. Like, that is really fun. And that's what made craft beer, because craft beer was grassroots.
Mm.
It wasn't easy to do that then. It wasn't like, here we are, we're craft beer. No, man, people didn't want, they were like, it was the yellow beer scene. And
Sure.
I remember times like there was a there was a lot of pressure on us as craft brewers to make really good beer. And when the 80s night, I figure myself kind of a second generation craft brewer,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you had Ken Grossman and all those people before me
Yep.
and
Yep.
that were doing that. And I came in, but there's a lot of pressure on us to make great beer, and we didn't really know how it all worked. We were home brewers, and we thought we knew, but we didn't really know. But
Sure.
yeah, all that pressure going on. So to be at a brewery and sell your beer, I'm going to relate an experience that I've had. Like, we're like, okay, we're making Tremont Pale Ale. It's a traditional English pale ale, open fermented with a classic English yeast. And they have no, they're like, "Mah, mah, mah, mah." They don't know what any of that stuff means.
Yeah.
Like, here's the beer. And they're like, they were like, why should I put your beer on tap? Why should I put on your shitty home brew on tap? How am I going to
Yeah.
sell that? That
Yeah.
it was hard. And we're like, well, here, taste it. You know, and if we screwed up and gave them a hazy beer,
Yeah.
they'd be like, nope, because all the
Yeah.
beer on their taps was clear. That beer
Yeah.
is clear, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm still a stickler for that. Maybe that's stuck with me. But
Sure.
like you put on, this happened to Schlitz. By the way, I got a Schlitz glass going on here. It's an old Schlitz glass.
Nice. Nice.
But Schlitz, I mean, they went out of business because they put out hazy beer because they were trying to take their process down to like 9 days or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they were like, nope, we don't want chunks. You're done. You suck. So
Yeah.
as a craft brewer in the 90s, we had to prove ourselves. Like, you had to
Yeah.
prove that you were worthy of getting on that tap. We didn't
Yeah.
have the money to pay to play. That was totally
Mhm.
illegal, but people did
Sure.
it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
We will give you free kegs. We'll build a draft system. We'll give you
Yeah.
sponsorship. We didn't have money to do that. We had to
Yes.
say, like, this is why you need our beer. And if we show
Yeah.
them our beer, it's got to be freaking clear. It's
Yeah.
got to be consistent. It's got to taste great. It has to be whatever the thing is, traditional English pale ale, whatever your shtick is, make it like own that stuff and be authentic and show up and talk about that and educate people, right?
Sure.
So we had to do all that stuff. So in order to do that, we had to work together. It was grassroots. It
Mhm.
wasn't just us out there as Tremont and Harpoon out there. And yeah, we had some competition on the marketplace fighting for
Sure.
one handle. If you can
Yeah.
get one
Yeah.
handle, that's a big deal, because it was
Yeah.
Bud, Miller. I don't even
Yeah.
know if Coors was there, but whatever. You
Sure.
get the idea. So, like, how do you get on there? Except for maybe some local ale house that had like 20 taps of great stuff.
Yeah.
Even then, like, how are you going to show your beer is as good as Anchor, as good as Chimay, as
Sure.
good as
Yeah.
all the other classics on there? Good luck to you. So we had to show up and do it really well. And then we tried, and some of us did in the 90s, did really well. Others, quality was an issue in the 90s. You know, it was
Mhm.
like some people had some quality problems. So yeah,
Mhm.
whatever. And then we kind of emerged from all that. Now I think nowadays, that was collaboration that helped us do that. The Master Brewers Association, I'm going to mention that District New England had been defunct since the 1960s. And I
Oh,
was
wow.
at one of the first meetings there where District New England got reinvigorated for the first time in the mid 90s with people from AB
Mhm.
up in New Hampshire and others, and Sam Adams. We met at Sam Adams, and some of the craft brewers, the ones I mentioned already. We're like, let's get this thing going. And I was like, holy crap, this is like a frat party because it's all these dudes in suits and stuff. I'm like, I don't know if this is for me, but we all had a beer and we
Yeah.
all had this same passion and we learned from each other. So that's collaboration, learning from them. They helped us make better beer. And then, yeah, so I think it's the same now. We still need to get together and, work together to make
Definitely.
great beer together. I think we're beyond the quality thing. I think every brewery, we have like almost 30 breweries in town here.
Yeah.
Everybody makes great beer.
Yeah.
They do. If it was the
Yeah.
90s, there'd be some that would suck, but nobody sucks here.
Sure.
Everybody
Sure.
knows how to make the great beer. The next thing is like, how do we keep this thing going? Because we're not selling so much beer anymore.
Yes.
Maybe I'm leading into the next thing. I don't know, but
No, no,
yeah.
man. There are some headwinds right now. Bart Watson from Brewers Association talks about the industry maturing. Obviously, there's some there's raw material price changes. There's financial hardship that has probably been coming out in the wash from some of the pandemic stuff as well. There's a lot of things going on. What are your thoughts on some of the hardship that the industry is finding itself in right now?
I think people aren't drinking.
Yeah.
I mean, there's costs, there's all that stuff for sure. We're maybe going through a phase there or whatever. Maybe craft beer is, I don't know what people's perception of craft beer is, but like, I think we all got to work together to figure out what the next phase is. I think I'm seeing signs of it already, what that phase is. I think, yeah, I mean, it's a big challenge for everybody. Small brewers, big
Sure.
brewers, beer sales are down,
Yeah.
quite a bit. So it's kind of ebbed and flowed. I think it was quality before in the 90s. I don't think it's quality now because everybody knows how to make great beer.
Mhm.
I think it's maybe rethinking who you are, focus, whatever it is. Maybe it's rediscovering some beers that are, if the customers, it's all about the customer. Like
Sure.
if they're requiring lower alcohol or less alcohol consumption, it's about making beers that are lower in alcohol,
Mhm.
maybe down 2, 3, maybe 4%.
Mhm.
Or maybe it's no alcohol, which is a huge thing right now.
Have you ever played in that space at all? I just had a buddy. He's a great brewer, friend of mine, and he's playing around with an NA beer that he's making at their pub, and basically he was making like a 5 Plato wort or something like that, and it only ferments out just a little bit. And I'm anxious to see how that turns out for him because he's a savvy guy, and we were kind of talking through the process a little bit. Have you played much in the NA space or worked with some of the technology around that at all?
No, I mean, I know about the technology. I can talk about the technology and how to do it. I have not done it myself. And it's funny because just last week there was an interview with a Channel 7 News here about non-alcoholic beverages. But what I have done at CSU with students, coworkers there is make a non-alcoholic hop seltzer. So we have like
Mhm.
throwing a coin to the beer, the hops and stuff, and creating
Mhm.
just it's seltzer water, citric
Mhm.
acid, some hop stuff. And
Mhm.
so there's that. But yeah, is non-alcoholic the future? Maybe, at the World Brewing Conference last year, Charlie Bamforth went up there and said, yeah, there's a temperance movement going on. That's something to think about. Those are the headwinds that we're up against, that there's a temperance movement. It used to be that like moderate consumption of alcohol was okay,
Mhm.
1 to 2 beers a day, whatever it is. And now the consensus from the scientific journals is like no alcohol is good.
Uh-huh.
And like, okay, maybe that's part of it. But I don't know. I don't know where that's at, but I think brewers being innovative people will figure it out, we'll
Sure.
figure out where it needs to go. I hope
Sure.
it drives beer into a direction that is maybe more palatable and more balanced for people. Balanced, not really a great word, but more subtle,
Mhm. Mhm.
and making beers.
Nuanced, maybe?
Nuance is a great
Yeah.
word. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And that has beers that have finesse. Like my favorite beers are beers that like it's not just all the malt, it's not just all the hops, it's not all this crazy banana yeast. It's when all the flavors come together and I can't really pick out in my brain where each one's
Mm.
coming from.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
just, but then there's this drinkability thing that happens there. And man, if you can do that with a 5 Plato wort and make a 2% beer or whatever you're making,
Mhm.
that would be amazing. Cool. Like
Mhm.
I'm down with that. And certainly there's traditions around the world where beers like that are made all the time
Sure.
in various, not
Sure.
just Western beer culture, but other cultures as well. There's lower alcoholic options. It doesn't have to be 6, 7, 8%, whatever that
Sure.
is.
what's your preferred wheelhouse? You know, if I had to plop you down in one country and you're going to drink that country's beer, and we're going to exclude, I'm going to exclude the United States right now. Okay, but I'm thinking like some of the traditional brewing areas of the world. Are you more of an English beer guy? You know, a German type? Where does your palate go on that?
Man, that's a hard question. I love all the beers.
I know, right? It's that's the right answer. That is
Yeah,
true,
I love
because
all the
I feel
beers.
the same way. What I always get, so like I think I always disappoint people, because people that aren't in the industry and they find out I make beer and they're like, well, what's the beer that you're most proud of, or a beer that you love to drink the most? And there is an element of like just like enjoyment, but for me it's always so technical. Anytime I get a beer in front of me, I want to taste it, I want to understand it, I want to know how they're striking balance.
Right.
Like, to me, like I'm putting together pieces when I'm drinking something, you know what I mean?
It's so hard to turn that off. I just had a
Mhm.
conversation with the students today, and I warned them at the beginning of the semester, when you learn how to taste beer and learn how it's made and all that, you got to watch out, because then you stop enjoying beer when you start picking it
Mm.
apart like that. So you got to be able to turn that
Sure,
off. Like,
sure.
it's funny because just today I related, like, what's my most best beer that I want all the time. Here's the story. I'm with my friend Dan Paquette, who awesome brewer in Boston, who now lives in Sheffield, England, and known him forever. And like, we went hiking with his wife on the Yorkshire moors,
Yeah.
and it was a beautiful hike, beautiful time. And we went to this hut that was built into the hillside with a thatched roof, and they had a cask of Deakston's Old Peculiar in it. It was like the best beer, one of the best beers of my life, man.
Yes, of
So
course it was.
so maybe it's not the
Yes.
beer. I'd rather answer your question not about the beer, but the experience, right?
Mm,
The experience and the
yeah,
beer. Like, I can say the
yeah,
same thing about the Pilsner Quell that I had in the cellar under the
yeah,
brewery, out of the wood tank,
yes,
or that amazing Hefeweizen that I had when I was on tour with the band in Europe. And
yes,
we're in, I think it was Regensburg, Germany. I kept a beer journal there
yeah.
and had a Hefeweizen, and it's a sunny day, and it was the most refreshing Hefeweizen ever. And there's like these old people hanging around playing pinochle
Uh-huh.
in the beer
Uh-huh.
garden. Like, that was the
Yeah,
perfect beer experience, man.
yeah,
That was the
yeah.
best. So I don't know.
No,
I like it.
I totally get that, because I remember, and this is, and I've done a little traveling for beer and had some, you know, very special beer experiences, but there was my wife and I never really had a honeymoon. We were just working when we first got married, and we had to keep working at that time. And so a few years back, after 6 kids, we eventually got our honeymoon, and we ended up going down to Austin. And we were just kind of bopping around there. She loves doing outdoor stuff. I like doing brewery stuff. And so we were finding a happy medium between things. And it was one of those situations where she and I don't get, you know, because of the family we've chose to have, you know, us having time to just hang out as 2 adults is a little bit at a premium. And we were
Sure.
at Austin Beer Garden, and it was a perfect day. The music was great. The pizza was great. And I was crushing the light lagers that they have on, the
Nice.
pills that they have on, or whatever. And I just remember saying, I'm like, this was just so great. And my wife and I, we had done some horseback riding early in the day, which she loved. And we just had this perfect day together, right?
Beautiful.
And then we went back before we left. I'm like, babe, I gotta go back for one more pint of whatever it was. Don't get me wrong, it was great, but it wasn't as good as it was that day. And
Uh-huh.
I'm not, the beer was exactly the same. Don't get me wrong,
Sure.
but it's all those things, and that's one of the things that I love about beer. And I think in some way it might be part of the answer when we're talking about how do we get our mojo back as an industry is
Mhm.
I believe some of the answer, and maybe an important portion of the answer, especially from a pub standpoint, is the experience.
Absolutely.
It's
Yep.
not whether or not you have Singo or trivia or those things can be great. That's great. But I think it's a beautiful thing to have a space that you walk into that you want to be inside of. The
Mhm.
service staff is next level, and it just creates that feeling in that
It's a
room.
community.
That's
Yeah,
special.
communal
That's
experience. Yeah.
special. And I think as more and more places have popped up, it's harder and harder to find those people to work in those spaces that love that beer and that service so much. I
Mhm.
think there's only so many of those people. But anyways, I could be wrong. It could be a training thing too. But I should not be talking as much as I'm talking right now.
Yeah, no,
So
that's good. How do we get the mojo back? I mean, that's a great one. How do we get the mojo back
yeah.
as brewers, and how do we get the mojo back as customer experience? And one of the questions you had on there, I think, was like, in this whole thing was like, what's the New Year's resolution for brewers? I
Sure,
love
sure.
that. That was such a good one, man. But like, how do you get that back? How do you bring people back to beer? Have
Mhm,
they been turned off from beer? Are they
mhm,
afraid like it's alcohol, it's poison, there's temperance? Like I don't know what's up there, but certainly we see beer culture in all over the world, in many different facets and many different dimensions. You
mhm,
know, I think, I mean, if I could speak as a brewer, how do we bring the mojo back to the beer? I would say we're all looking, it's very competitive right now. I get it.
Mhm.
People are trying to find their space, and they're probably they're siloing off as well. I think it's absolutely the wrong thing to do, is
mhm,
to silo away from your fellow brewers.
mhm,
You're trying to hold your space. You got your brew pub, you got your, whatever it is, your little brewery in your town, trying to hold your space, trying to get the people there. But like, I think it's the wrong thing to do. I think we have to keep creating or recreating the beer culture, what it is. I think we did a
mhm,
great job with that back in the late 2000, 2010, 2012, when we had a bunch of tap houses opening up and we can sell beer on premise. It becomes a hugely profitable model where you can have
mhm,
a brewery where you don't even package, but you can make a living at it. It's great. When I started at Tremont, we knew that we were not going to be profitable until we started making maybe 10, 12, 15,000 barrels a year,
mhm,
because we
mhm,
had to distribute through a 3-tier system.
mhm,
It's different now. So is it bringing the culture back there? It's working with your fellow brewers. I think it's making beers that people want and educating the people about that. It's not about the first beer you have. It's not about selling that beer. I'm going to sound like AB InBev now because I know them. It's not about selling the first beer. It's about selling the second beer,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
It's true.
why would you have a third? Is it really that good? You want a third? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you're making a great beer.
Yeah.
So I see the signs already that brewers are coming around and making more beers with more nuance and finesse. Use your word.
Mhm,
It's a great word.
mhm,
And starting to rediscover. And I think consumers starting to rediscover, like, whoa, hmm, British mild. Like, here's a
yeah.
little bit of malt. It's
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
3%. I can have three of them. I could walk away and I'm not going to
Yes.
fall on my face.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And I had a great time with my friends. And there's no TV screens around. Like, it was great.
Uh-huh.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? As brewers, I think we also have to realize, like, to look at it from the perspective, I got to go on my, I got to get on the podium here and talk about mind control.
Sure. Sure.
It's about time that brewers realize that brewers don't make beer.
Yeah.
Brewers do not make beer.
Yeah.
And if you're a brewer, you know why, because we don't make beer. The yeast makes the beer.
Mhm,
Yeast is part of the collaboration that we're in.
mhm,
So how are you going to make a beer with the yeast and these amazing grains that were grown by some farmer somewhere and malted by some amazing maltster somewhere,
mhm,
and hops that were grown somewhere by an amazing hop farmer somewhere? How are you going to manage this and meld all this stuff together? And as brewers, we got to remember that we're not in control. We're not in control of that. The yeast and the other things are in control.
Mhm.
We are compelled to make the beer. Like, let's think about this, because we take these raw materials, we process them, we make simple sugars from malt, we put them up in a tank, and we put yeast in that. And what do we get out? We get yeast excrement.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
It's yeast consuming sugar, and they're shitting out alcohol and carbon dioxide
Uh-huh.
and all the wonderful beer flavors that we love.
Uh-huh.
So, as brewers, think about your raw materials, not just hops.
Uh-huh.
Think about the fact that you are not making beer, but you're making food for the yeast. You need to know about your malt. You need to talk to your maltster and understand what they're doing with the barley, so you can understand what's happening with the fan, the free amino nitrogen in there, the extract, the diastatic power, the enzyme content of that malt. What's the best way for you to work with that and process it to create this amazing food for your yeast, so your yeast can shit out the most amazing flavors you've ever had,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
think about it that way and find your place in this thing. I believe the yeast are in control. You can call me crazy, but they're the fungus. There's a lot. I did this whole thought experiment about
Uh-huh.
where how many yeast cells are in your pint of beer while it's fermenting, or
Sure.
in your tank. Let's just say there's a whole lot more yeast in that tank than there are people in this world
Oh,
here.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So, like, they are somehow compelling us to make this thing to feed them, and then we like their excrement.
That's right.
So, you know what? I'll make it short and sweet. Like, be humble as a brewer.
Yeah.
Be humble.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
be grateful that you're able to work with these natural raw materials and figure out how to work in collaboration with the yeast and these raw materials to make something beautiful for your customers, and make something for your customers where they're curious. Go back to
Yeah.
the curiosity. What's in this beer? What does it smell like? What are the flavors? And why do I want to have another one?
Yeah.
I want another one because I stick around with my friends. And this is secondary to my friend and community experience. Going back to what you said, like, why am I here? You
Yes.
know? Yeah,
Yes.
and we can talk about the beer, or we can talk about the trivia contest, or whatever we have. But like,
That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
Yep.
I didn't get going as much as I would like to, but like, yeah, happy to talk about the fungal overlords at some point.
That's
who are-
right. That's
who
right.
are the yeast who compel us to make the beer.
That's right. Well, listen, you had mentioned something before, and I wanted to get your thought on it. You had mentioned just real quick the hop water stuff that you had been working with just recently. I was out in Boston, and I was working with a guy, and he had made a hop tea. And the first thing that I was concerned about when he told me this is because between the hops and the tea that he was using, that one of the first things I'm always concerned about in a situation like that, where you're throwing on top of it carbonation and different things, is, having something that can be astringent. But he made this chamomile tea, and then he was utilizing like one of the abstracts type flowable advanced hop compounds. And we were talking about ways that he could potentially tweak it, whether it be with citric acid, maybe a little bit of lactic. But it was such a pleasing, thing. When you're making hop water, are you using pellets, advanced products, or like cryo products? What are some of the ways that you've played around with hop water?
I used a water-based hop extract. It was a clear hop extract from oh shoot, I'm gonna forget now. I think it was Hopsteiner. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But like, one of our former students at Fermentation Science, her name is Shay Maloney. She is over there doing innovation. She came up with this product,
Nice.
and so we use that, and it's a clear hop extract. Pretty sure it's Hopsteiner. I don't remember now. Shoot. But anyway, yeah, so we use that. That was easy to use. I think abstracts would be another easy way to do that as well, versus whole hops, where you have, like solid material you got to deal with.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
advanced hop products would be the way I'd go with that. Yeah,
sure. And then when you're playing around with pH, I do think that sometimes pH is one of the things that people can neglect when talking about like some of the intangibles of their beer. I always, even just from a process standpoint of understanding your beer a little bit better, I love telling people to take a beer that, you know, it's a standard beer of yours, and say it finishes at 4.4, dose it down to 4.3, 4.2, 4.1, and 4, and then just taste across those and see what that does for just from a knowledge standpoint. You might find that being a little bit lower is going to make certain things pop in your beer. When it comes to something like hop water, what is kind of that pH range that you're looking to generate when you're making a beverage like that?
Yeah, good question. So technically speaking, food safe in terms of pH is below 4.5.
Yeah,
That would be determined food safe. But with the hop water, down around 3.2, 3.3.
Yeah.
It's like, and so the thing is, when you start making non-alcoholic beverages, you're removing one of the barriers to food safety. And so I always, in class and always, we should all be thinking about safety, number one, like safety for your customers and safety for being a food safe, you know, microbiologically stable liquid. So yeah, so we remove the alcohol. That's a barrier
Sure.
to many organisms that can kill you. So, and then removing oxygen through carbon dioxide is another one. But taking the alcohol out is a significant factor. So even with the hop water, many of those hop products, I'm not familiar with all of them, but some of them
Sure.
I am. And many hop extracts do have a level of microbiology, and they're not totally clean. And
Sure.
you should get your certificate analysis and understand that. So you should probably, I mean, ideally, if you're doing anything like that, even without the alcohol, and even if you're thinking about pH, which you should be, and in this product, it tasted great. Citric acid, we added down to like 3.3 or 3.4, I forget. But the tunnel pasteurization is the way to go. We actually canned this, and we canned it. We get one of our partners at CSU, Cody Manufacturing, for canning.
Yes.
They come in. They just came in a couple of weeks ago, brought in a 6-egg can filler. We canned a bunch of stuff there. So we canned all the hop water, and we've actually been testing it over time to see if there's any kind of microbial issues.
Yeah.
And
no,
none so far, which is great. And we did not tunnel pasteurize it, but we're in control of it. But if I were to ship that around the country, like, I definitely want to tunnel pasteurize that.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the first questions in my mind is so you're adjusting that pH down to 3.2, 3.3 with citric acid. We use a lot of lactic acid on the beer side, sometimes phosphoric as well. Why would you prefer to use citric in that situation? Is it because it mimics the flavors that you want to be amplifying, and that dropping with lactic that much would get you a flavor profile? It would be too flavor forward. Is that the thought?
I definitely think different acids would be a flavor consideration. In fact, next time we do this, I think we would consider using ascorbic acid instead of citric. But yeah, definitely lactic's going to be more, mouthfeel, that kind of more satiating acid. Citric is more like lemony.
Love it. Yes.
That's what we wanted. We use lemony hops.
Great.
And then you could use malic acid. All these are going to have a different amount of, they'll be able to drive pH down in different amounts because they're all different kinds of acid.
Sure.
So malic would be another one, more apple-y, right? Or that's the kind of acid you see in apples. So in this case, we just use citric, but I think you can go any direction you want there.
Love it.
Depending on flavor. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, listen, man, we're gonna wrap up. This is an absolute blast. I just want to tell you how grateful I am for you taking time to chat with us. These conversations tend to get away from me time wise. Things flew from me,
totally.
and so I appreciate you making time for it. Everybody out there, we will be live again next Thursday, November 13th, and I'm going to be talking with Aaron Ross, somebody that I know from back home in Michigan. We're going to be talking beer education. He's got a brewing program out there in Kalamazoo. We're going to be talking a little bit of that stuff. But Jeff, man, thank you so much once again. Appreciate you sharing all of your experience with us.
Thanks so much, Adam. I just lost you there. I hope I'm back on, but like, thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it. And it's been a lot of fun chatting with you. So thanks, everyone.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Have a great night. Be good to your people, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
This feeling's deeper than an ocean, with a groove that's beating harder than my heart. So baby, now just hear me out. No, don't fear this emotion, 'cause you can't stop the fire once it starts.